Today on my Beginner's Guide to Cricut, I'm making some paper lanterns. These are going to be used with very safe battery controlled candles, and I'm making some as a gift for a friend's birthday. That's coming up in a week or so's time. It's one of my first designs that I've done myself. I've seen other people make these and I thought I'd have a go myself. So using everything available within Cricut Design Space, I hope you like the results. Please remember to give us a thumbs up and subscribe. I'm on a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space and I'm going to be using the basic square to make the template for two sides of my lantern. I want this to be 7.25 wide by 5 inches tall. So I'll lock that now so I've got my shape, and I'll make it a colour that's a little easier to work with. There. Now one of the things we want on here are score lines, because we're going to be scoring down the centre. So put it right onto an inch marker so I can see where the centre is, and that's also within shapes score line. So I want the first score line to be around half an inch in from that edge, and that's because I'm going to be making this fold into the next edge, which you'll see when I make it up. So duplicate that, and I want my next to be halfway across, which is going to be the 3.5 point, slightly over. Yeah. Okay, so I've got two equal sides. What I want to do now is make the window, the hole in the side of this through which will come the glow of the candle. So back to shapes, back to square, and I'll change the colour of this to a yellow. Unlock it again and put it here as a sign, as a guide. So I want it in a little and then down. 0.75 is going to work. And in terms of the height, the overall height is 5 inches. I'll put that to 4.25 as well. And lock it. So I'll duplicate that, move it over here. So make sure that they're aligned at the bottom, so they're aligned. Okay, I'm happy with their position. Now what I want to do is make these a cutout. So to do that, what I'm actually going to do is just hide my score lines for now. Select that and select that, and what we're going to do is choose weld. Once we've done that, select it again, and hit slice, and then what happens, move that away. We don't need those anymore. What we now have is our template. So we'll switch on our score lines again, arrange it and send to the back, move our score lines back in position, Yep. And we're going to attach those so that those score lines on our frame are now one. So I'm going to make a second lantern. So what I'll do is just duplicate this one and do some resizing. So I found the images that I want to use. I'll have that balloon over here and this over here. Okay, so let's go out a little bit so you can see. We'll start with this larger lantern. The happy birthday, I want to pretty much fill one side of this. Now the wording I've chosen is all in one piece. So if you notice, there are no gaps between the letters or the words. So that's going to cut out really well. But I do want to make sure that it touches the edges of the lantern side so that they'll really sit well. It'll still be readable when it's cut out, but that will be one nice continuous piece. Now the balloon, I want the same. I want it to connect at least 3 points, and you'll see why when we get to cutting out. And here's a gift that will connect to the edge, and I think that's going to look pretty good. Let's try the same over here. So I'll put my smile in. That just has to come in a little bit. Like that. And my balloons. Now the balloons are pretty much going to fill that side. Can reduce them a little bit. Yeah, I like that. Okay, now if I was just to send that to cut, you know, change it all to one colour and send that to cut, it would cut around these whole shapes, which is not what we want. So what we're going to do is detach, and for now we are going to hide our score lines. Then we're going to take this and we're going to weld. Now you see it will cut this as a continuous piece, which is what we want. So we'll go back to our score lines. Show them. Send that to the back. There are score lines. And to make sure that it cuts that as one, we're going to attach them. And we now have two sides of our lantern. To get the other sides, we duplicate and bring that down. So we'll just repeat that over here. So remember, we are going to, for now, just hide our score lines. the reason we do that is if we were to weld all this now, it would take that score line and turn it into a cut line, which is not what we want. So we're going to weld. Now I've actually lost the teeth marks in that for some reason, because I want those to cut out, and it hasn't done it now. I wonder if there's a different smile. Let me just check images. That's the one I used. Let's see if this one works any differently. Bring you down. I mean, yes, can you see how those are solid white and now they're not? Okay. So bring our smile back up. Reduce it a little. Right, try that again. Weld. Great, now we have the cutout smile. So I'm going to switch back on my score lines. Attach everything. We now have our sides. Duplicate that. And we have our four sides of our lantern. Now all that's left is to make our shapes for the translucent film, which can be cut out of, I use tracing paper. You could use vellum, or you could use just any fine paper that will allow the light just to show through. So what we need to do for that is back into shapes, square again, bring it down, and I'll change the colour to something more like light. So the best way to make sure that this fits is to put it in place, because you need enough edge to glue that into place. And so to see if it's going to, you can see where the outline of it is, and it's not quite wide enough, I don't think. So we'll send that to the back, and I think that could do being a little bit wider, like that. Okay, so I'll lock that, bring it down, and I'm going to need 4 of them. Okay, so if I duplicate again and use this as my template over here, go to make it, it will show us our mats. Because these are all one colour, they're coming through onto those mats, but I think it's been a reminder that I want to change the colours of these. If I detach, it now allows me to select a colour. So I think this one I'll do in a nice yellow. You the same. So you'll go on one mat. You. If I detach you, and I think we'll have you. So As long as it shows a different colour, that's all I'm interested in. Same yellow there. Now of course what we've got to do is attach our score lines again. So we've got our pieces on our mats. Some wastage there, but it's quite a big piece that I'll be left with that I'll be able to get some use out of. So I'm not overly concerned. And I think we're ready to cut our lanterns. So I want to make this. I've cut out my lantern frames. I'm really pleased with how they've turned out. To get the score lines bent correctly, I use this ruler and just bend across that so that I get a nice clean edge. So my paper, I set the cutting machine to tissue paper to cut this, so that it asked me to use the rotary blade, which is much easier. Otherwise it tended to rip the paper, especially when you're taking it off the cutting mat. To glue this together, I've tried a couple of methods, and the one I prefer, put that like that, is to use spray mount repositionable adhesive. Now it does smell a little bit, so I tend to use a box to do that, and I don't want it on that outer edge. I don't want the glue on there. So what I'll do is position that, and then it has to sit for a few seconds before I put the tissue paper in place. So I'll spray both sides. As I say, make sure you're in a well ventilated room to do this. And let those dry for a few seconds. After those two methods, I would have to declare Cricut Stick the winner. And there are my finished lanterns, all created within Cricut Design Space. So it shows you just how easy it is to make beautiful things with the software you have available with your Cricut cutting machine. I'm really pleased with the results. So remember, if you enjoyed this video, please do give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button, and I can let you know when there are new videos posted. Thank you.